Hello, and welcome to this course on hiring and outsourcing. In this course, we're going to cover how to ease some of your burden, expand your capabilities, and reduce costs by outsourcing and hiring virtual staff. Module 1 covers hiring permanent virtual team members. Module 2 covers outsourcing jobs to freelancers for specific projects. And Module 3 covers managing your virtual team. By the time this course is over, you'll know how to effectively and affordably hire remote team members or freelancers for your business. So without further ado, let's dive into the first module. Okay guys, welcome to Module 1. In this module, our expert will be teaching you about hiring permanent virtual team members. So get ready to take some notes and let's jump right in.
Okay, so when we're looking at hiring permanent employees, whether full-time or part-time, the two main countries that come to mind are India and the Philippines. Now, these are both also a good source of freelancers, by all means. However, these are also very popular for full-time staff because of how cost-effective they are and how much money you can save as a company by outsourcing to these countries. So, developers and programmers in India are going to run you $1,500 and up. Designers, $1,300. SEO specialists, $1,000. Social media managers, $1,000, general virtual assistants, $1,000, and customer support, $1,000 and up. That's still very cost effective, but it's not quite as cost effective as the Philippines. As you can see, the Philippines, things are even less expensive. Programmers, $500, designers, $400, SEO specialists, $400, $300 for social media managers, $350 for general virtual assistants. Customer support, $300 to $600. I mean, it's a no-brainer, especially that last one. Now, the reason for the price difference is really just the power of the dollar in the Philippines. The buying power of the dollar goes much further. So these, although they look incredibly small to us, are actually comfortable salaries in the Philippines, depending on age and where in the Philippines you live and that sort of thing, cost of living. However, generally speaking, the dollar goes much further in the Philippines, and also there's obviously a difference in demand, okay? India is very sought after by companies all over the world for outsourcing, okay? And obviously demand drives up price a bit too, whereas the Philippines is until recently, until just a few years ago, was sort of an unknown gem. And I say gem because in the Philippines, they actually speak better English than in India. In the Philippines, it's one of their official languages, and you can tell because they all sound 100% fluent. It's crazy. I personally didn't realize this before looking into the matter. In the Philippines, even the accent is barely noticeable. It sounds, if anything, some people confuse it with a Latino American accent sometimes, a first-generation Latino American maybe. Okay, there might be a little bit of a Southern Californian twang sometimes. It's been referred to as that as far as their accent is concerned. So the accent is very, very minimal. Grammar is just about perfect. Honestly, the most common grammar mistakes among Filipinos is more or less the same mistakes that you'll notice among young Americans, okay? And usually you only notice that in written content. So Philippines are an absolute gold mine for outsourcing, especially now that their workforce over the last 10 years or so are becoming much more technically skilled on all these different online types of tasks. So now they can do pretty much everything that folks in India can do at a much lower price, and there's no language barrier. There's no stigma about the accent if you're doing customer service over the phone. All right, obviously that's totally unjustified and not okay that there's a stigma about the Indian accent when customers call customer support. However, that stigma does exist. It's a well-known stigma, and it's a reality that you have to deal with as a business owner. In the Philippines, there is no such accent, and there's no stigma, therefore, associated with phone support. So cheaper, better English, and more or less the same skill sets. So that's why we're going to be focusing primarily on the Philippines in this video when we're looking at hiring permanent employees, okay? Now, if you do decide you want to check out India, India is still an incredibly cost-effective place. There's a very skilled workforce, very dedicated people there. It's a great place to outsource to, and if you prefer to do that, there's a lot of different avenues for that. One example would be virtual employee, and there's lots of companies just like this. You can just Google outsource to India, and you'll find companies that will basically do the recruiting and the hiring and the vetting and the filtering for you to make sure that you get good employees. However, obviously, if you use a service like this, there's going to be a bit of a premium tacked on in addition to what you'll be paying as a salary to the workers. Okay, so just be aware of that. But I would say it's probably worth it. okay, to get it right the first time and have someone who is experienced in doing this type of vetting and recruiting do this for you. Now, the next thing I want to look at, and the place we're going to spend most of our time, is onlinejobs.ph. Onlinejobs.ph is an incredible resource. It's a great place to save a little bit of money while you're doing your recruiting, meaning you're not paying a premium for your workers on top of their salaries because you're doing the actual vetting and the filtering yourself. You're just paying a monthly fee or a quarterly fee here for however long you need to do your recruiting operations. It's really a great deal. It's a great way to tap into the Filipino outsourcing or business process outsourcing market. And there's a few different ways to use this site to find the perfect, permanent, long-term team member. As you can see, there are an absolute ton of job posts here. This is a very happening market, okay? And the people who are signed up here, the Filipino workers who are signed up looking for work here, are very active in checking here. We've got 7,000 job posts for writing, 22,000 job posts for English-related work, web development, finance and management, WordPress, PHP programming, customer service, very big one. Professional services, graphics and multimedia, very talented people in the Philippines in these areas. Sales and marketing, project management. You can even find people in leadership and management positions to take even more of the load off of your shoulders, which is essentially what you're doing when you're hiring full-time employees. Okay, let's just for grins, project management sounds like an interesting one. Let's do a search for PMP and see what comes up. So we've got PMP. So here we have a whole, let's see, what do we got here? 29 search results for project managers. These are people who are able to fill actual management and leadership positions in your company. And we're looking at, on average here, it looks like around $1,000. I saw one up here for close to $2,000. I mean, that's pretty significant, guys. Okay, for someone who can actually take that level of weight off your shoulders, so you can actually count on to be a leader and a manager. Okay, over here, what do we got? I saw the word process executive, senior process executive. Someone who's actually handling things, doing the collaboration and the communication for you so that you don't have to. This is pretty significant that even this level of expertise exists on this website. However, most people don't come here looking for this type of thing. Most people come here for the more standard suite of skills. Let's do a search for content writer. Philippines are well known for their English skills, so let's leverage that and have somebody from the Philippines actually writing our social media content, our blog content. Wouldn't that be great to get off your chest? Content is just a pain in the butt, isn't it? Let's see here. $291 to $388. That's the desired salary for an experienced writer here. Consider that for a moment. Paying someone just a few $100s a month and knowing that every week you're going to get, 3 or 4 blog posts published on your blog. Content published to social media. Maybe even having marketing emails written. It depends on their skill set. You've got to interview these people. But you've got to understand the value of that for just a few $100. How much weight does that take off of your shoulders? Freelance SEO writer. This guy knows how to write in a way that's optimized for search engine ranking. SEO-based articles. $485 to $582. I mean, that's a hell of a deal. Got another one down here. Just under $600 for content creator. You'll notice a lot of these people have 3 or 4 different skills that they've developed working online. And that's another thing to consider as well. How much of a workload can you pass off to your team if you can actually have multiple people handling multiple jobs per person? So this is a great way to search out people who are already qualified for the skills that you have. However, the most common way to approach recruiting on onlinejobs.ph is filling out an actual job posting. So I'm going to click this Post a Job button here. And we're going to pretend that we are looking for a software developer, okay? And I actually have at my disposal a very cool program called Startup Bootstrapped, which is run by a guy named Mark Thompson. And they have all sorts of training and resources specifically on the recruiting process for software people. So if you're getting into software and you need people who can develop, who can design UIs, who can get into the back end and do all the magical things that they do in the back end, this would be a very cool resource to check out. And I'm actually going to be utilizing one of the done for you job postings right here, because personally, I'm not a specialist in back end software development or web development. So I don't really know how to write the perfect job posting, okay? So I'm going to leverage this asset here and just paste that here. Let's have a look here. So we're looking for a back-end web developer. Let me actually change the name accordingly. And the job description right here basically explains that we need someone who's able to do back-end stuff, okay, back-end development, but still be able to communicate and collaborate with the front-end people, which means the designers, the people making the UI, the people who make things look pretty on the front end, as well as with customers, okay? Let's see here. Basic understanding of front-end technologies is therefore necessary as well. It's important. What you're looking for: 5 years of experience, back-end development, want to transform big visual ideas into flawless functionality. So someone who can look at the desired idea, the desired outcome for the software and say, I know how to make that happen. I can actually design the functionality or develop the functionality on the back end. Okay, passionate about learning from your coworkers, improving your skills, communicating your choices to the internal. So, I mean, you're basically listing a lot of traits that you want people to have. Okay, you want people reading this application and saying, is that me? Okay, a geek about process, streamlining, sharpening how you approach. You're also setting these people up for success by telling them what your standards are. You're expecting people to be enthusiastic about these different types of traits and characteristics, okay, and these different behaviors. Essential job functions. Much of your work at Pay Kickstart, since we're getting that from, like I said, Mark Thompson, who runs Pay Kickstart. I'll just say X for now. Much of your work will be contributing to improve on the features and functionality of existing applications. Don't rule yourself out if you don't have all the skills and experience we mentioned. We look for passionate, driven people who care about improving their craft every day. That's important, okay? Now, that's optional. It's obviously going to depend on your needs. If you need somebody who's absolutely ready to go and knows everything, make that clear. However, if you're open to people who are not quite at that level, okay, but, for the sake of being cost effective or whatever, you're still willing to have them come on board and be trained by you or their fellow team members and get better, then by all means put that in here. You'll get more applications that way, right? And finally, we've got in bullet point format here a list of all the things that they need to be able to do. Design and implementation of data storage solutions, the optimization of the application for maximum speed, building reusable codes and libraries for future use. Once again, I'm not a programmer, so I don't understand what half of this stuff means. Same thing for desired qualifications. Basic understanding of front-end technologies and platforms, CSS preprocessors, Laravel framework. See, I can't even pronounce the words in here. But you need to know what you're looking for, and you need to communicate very clearly to the potential applicant what the things are that you're looking for. And of course, you're outsourcing to somebody on the other side of the world. So this job requires routine desk and computer work. No travel is required. Okay, now based on that chart we were looking at earlier, a web developer, a back-end programmer in the Philippines, $550 to $1,300. Let's just say $600 a month. Type of employment, full-time, permanent team member. Okay, ID proof. On onlinejobs.ph, this basically means the minimum amount. Basically, they get a score for all the different types of things they upload to the website, such as a driver's license, proof of past work experience, that type of stuff. And it's not the end of the world if they have a slightly lower ID proof. However, it's recommended that you try to filter applicants who have a higher ID proof score on onlinejobs.ph. Now, the skill section down here is pretty important. However, you don't want to overdo it. Okay, because you want to make sure that you're getting the people who have the skills that you need. You don't want to add a bunch of extra ones, because if you add, like, let's say, okay, writing and speaking English is very important. Okay, well, if people don't really have that particular skill or writing, we need people to be able to do, technical writing, web content writing. If you add a bunch of irrelevant stuff, although it sounds cool, you're going to be filtering out people who might be rock stars at the main thing that you need. Okay, so it's best just to grab a few specific things. So for us, we're going to be looking at software development and programming, right? We could grab all of the relevant ones that we might need. I don't know what half of these things mean because I'm not a programmer. However, you want to basically focus on just the handful of things that you absolutely, definitely need. Oh yeah, so for ours, for example, I remember seeing PHP, JavaScript, Laravel. Those sound pretty familiar. WordPress development, you could click if you need somebody who knows WordPress. So anyway, the point is, just choose the handful of skills that are specifically, directly relevant and necessary for the job posting. Don't go crazy, otherwise you'll be filtering out a lot of people who might actually be absolute rock stars, okay? That's about it for hiring full-time permanent employees. Once again, lots of options out there. You don't have to go to the Philippines. If you do go to the Philippines, however, onlinejobs.ph is a fantastic place to do it, both for searching people by resume and posting jobs. And you can expect a whole lot of responses to an application on onlinejobs.ph. And of course, the next step would be inviting them to a Skype conversation, for example, or a chat conversation, where you actually interview the ones who you feel are qualified based on what you're looking for. Okay, and make sure you actually have a set of questions ready to interview these people on the spot and see which ones are going to progress to the next level. And eventually, you'll hopefully narrow down one person who you want to hire. And always keep a Rolodex. If you had a couple of rock stars and you just couldn't hire them, okay, let's say you've only got one position for one person, keep a Rolodex and contact them later if work opens up. That's always a good idea as well. But that sums up hiring full-time permanent employees.
Hey folks, welcome to Module 2. In this module, our expert will be showing you how to outsource jobs to freelancers for specific projects. So get ready to take some notes and let's jump right in.
All right, guys, so here we are on Upwork. Now we're going to be looking at Upwork and Fiverr.com for hiring project-based freelancers, meaning you have a job, you need that job done, you're going to pay someone for that project. Now it might be an upfront agreed on cost for the entire project, or you could pay per hour, okay, depending on exactly what the project is and obviously the desires and the needs of the individual who's completing the project for you. Some people will only work for an hourly wage as opposed to agreeing on a project-based payment. Now, Upwork is a great place to come to because it's a little bit higher end than Fiverr, or at least it's perceived that way. And you can certainly get a lot of great applicants from here. However, what comes with the territory? Price. You are going to be paying a little bit more when you go to Upwork versus Fiverr for specific projects. So in this case, let's say that we're actually looking for an appointment setter. Okay, there's no shortage on Upwork of different types of positions and specialists. Okay, you could come up with anything, and it's probably on Upwork. Anything from web design to software development to voiceovers, graphics design. But for our example, let's do appointment setting. And appointment setting just means following up with leads or even cold calling and trying to get appointments set up for sales calls. Okay, so let's try appointment setting, and we've got several pages worth of results here, okay? A lot of people here are doing appointment setting, and as you can see, it's always in parallel with sales and telemarketing. A lot of people who are marketing themselves as appointment setters will also happen to have closing as a skill, meaning they can also do the actual sales calls for you. They can also do the closing calls for you. A lot of them will be cold callers. They can do cold calling. Some people will specifically say in their resume that I will not do cold calling. I work with warm leads only. Okay, so you'll need to make sure you find one that fits what you're looking for. Let's just click on Deborah here. Actually, she doesn't actually specifically say appointment setting. Oh yeah, she does right there. So let's click on hers. Let's have a look at her Upwork profile. So she's got an 80% job success rate. That's one of the things you want to look at here, is how exactly your fellow job posters are rating the people here. So we've got relevant work, and we've got all work history, okay? There's a lot of cold calling, lead generation, social media sales, so it looks like she actually does sales calls as well. And it looks like, for the most part, she has some pretty good feedback, or in some cases, no feedback. Right here, 3 stars, but no explanation given. Okay, in my book, I usually only want to take a very negative review seriously if there's some details given. But relevant work will be specifically, things that include that keyword, appointment setting or appointment setter. And it looks like she's had a lot of success doing that job for people in recent history, okay? She's done 256 jobs on Upwork. She's earned into the 6 figures. She has an hourly rate of $28. And she's worked a whole lot of hours here. So it looks like she might actually be a good candidate to search for. And this is the process that you would use if you were searching Upwork for qualified candidates manually. However, the thing about Upwork, let's actually come back to Deborah, is you'll notice you can't just reach out to them directly like you can on some other sites, because it's not a gig or a micro job site like Fiverr. So you actually have to have a job posting listed on Upwork to invite them to. And in this case, we know that we don't, or the software knows that we don't. So it says post job to invite. That's the only way we can get in touch with Deborah. So we have to post a job. First, we could do that by clicking that button. But the standard way is just to come up here, jobs, and click post a job. Create new job. And we're going to go ahead and name our job post. Appointment setter. Job category. Upwork automatically put that in lead generation, which sounds like a good place for it. We'll hit next. And description. Now, we've already got an example typed up here for an appointment setter job description, and we're just going to explain everything that we need. So we are in Westchester County. We need people to set up appointments on telephone. Responsibilities include cold calling local businesses with some leads provided to set up appointments for senior sales executives. So there's your sales guy. He's going to be the one actually closing the calls. Okay, the appointment setter is just someone who actually goes out there and is good at cold calling and getting people interested in setting up an appointment in the future. Okay, follow a simple script. They need to be able to do that. Also responsible for sourcing prospecting leads through internet searches, such as Yelp, Google, and other internet sources. There's a proactive duty that's included in this job. Follow up with prospective leads. Confirm appointments for the senior sales executive. Act as a liaison between client and sales rep once the prospect has agreed to setting up an appointment. Now, if we had other project files that we needed to upload, we could put that right here, but we don't, so we'll hit next. And in this case, it sounds like for an appointment setter, we probably are looking for an ongoing project, not a one-time project. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click that. And we're looking for probably just these skills right here. Sales, that's not really necessary because we're having them pass leads through to the sales man. And we've got telephone handling might be a good one. And we'll go ahead and leave it at that. We don't want to add too many skills and over filter here. Let's go ahead and hit next. And we're looking for freelancers. We could go worldwide. We could go find somebody in the Philippines, right, or the UK or Australia, someone who, seems to have a pretty standard English accent, and we could have them calling in the United States if we wanted to provide the service, or the infrastructure for them making those international calls. Okay, for example, we could, if we were doing this via Skype, that would be an option. But for our purposes, let's do US only. And states and time zones, let's just say Central Time. Next. Who can see your job? Only Upwork freelancers, anyone. Let's go ahead and increase the reach to anyone. If we wanted to, and we only wanted to reach out to people like Deborah, who we were just now looking at, and manually invite people, we could do invite only. Putting anyone on here or only Upwork freelancers means everybody on Upwork will see the job posting, and if it applies to them, you're going to get a ton of applications to sift through, okay? Which may be good, may be bad. Okay, how many freelancers do you need for this job? We're looking for just one, and we have an option here of selecting past freelancers that we've worked with to specifically invite right from the get-go. We do not have any, but we will theoretically go back to that results page for people who have appointment setter as a skill on Upwork and go and start manually inviting people who we're interested in to come and apply to our job. We could add special qualifications here, such as independent or agency, if we want just one person, who's working for themselves from home, for example, or if we want an agency, so somebody who's actually running an office with a few people who are doing multiple projects or multiple jobs. Hours billed on Upwork. Let's say we only want people who have worked 500 hours or more, okay, to filter quality a little bit. Job success, let's say 80% and up. English level, self-assigned. Let's say native or bilingual is important. And group, leave to no preference. Let's hit next. Pay by the hour or pay for a one-time project. Now let's say we're just running a campaign here, okay? We're just hiring someone for a one-time project. We could click that. Do you have a specific budget? Let's say we are willing to spend $2,500. And in this case, we would probably be setting some type of a quota, right? So let's say we're just opening a new B2B service in a certain city. And we just want to get, 20 appointments set. All right, we're not looking to actually hire someone on as an employee, as a permanent team member. We just want them to do this one project for us. So we're going to put a fixed price, $2,500, and we want to go for intermediate experience to make sure that the job gets done the first time around. And there you go. There is our project-based freelancer job posting. We could post this, and suddenly a ton of people on Upwork would see it and come check us out. So that's the Upwork side of things. Again, Upwork is seen as a little bit higher level. It's a little bit more expensive, but generally speaking, you're seen as getting higher quality workers and work done. Now, the other end of the spectrum could be Fiverr. Okay, Fiverr.com, you're paying for, Fiverr started out as literally just a $5 micro job website. Okay, obviously now very few people buy things for just $5 on Fiverr. Okay, but it's still dirt cheap. It's gig-based, so just go accomplish one thing and you're done. Okay, there's no hourly rates, although you could theoretically arrange something like that and do that manually. Okay, and we're going to say we just need a website built. Okay, so we're here on Fiverr. We're searching. We can sort by recommended or newest arrivals or best selling. Newest arrivals is a good way to try and get somebody who's willing to work on the cheap because they're trying to build up their portfolio. They're trying to get more reviews. As you can see, these people don't exactly have a lot of stars there, and that usually means they're willing to do work for cheaper. Obviously, be careful with that because that could mean that you're going to get low quality work done. Obviously, there's more assurance of quality if you use recommended or best selling. So let's come over to best selling for website builders and content management systems. And we've got a lot of different options here to look at. And remember the number, the dollar number that you're seeing here is only the starting price. That's the lowest entry, the lowest level of what they have to offer, okay? Another thing you're looking at is what level of seller are they? If they're a level 1 seller, that means they're still relatively new, but they've accomplished enough basic stuff and gotten good enough reviews for those things that you can more or less trust that they're going to do a pretty good job, okay? From their perspective, level 1 means they have some restrictions and cool things that they cannot do as far as how to charge money and how to customize their gig listing and that sort of thing. But from our perspective, level 1 just means they've been around for a little while, not super long, but they've got some experience under their belt and they have met a certain minimum level of customer satisfaction, which is good. I would say, unless you're really looking to to sort of pinch the pennies and tighten your belt buckle and get things as cheap as possible, if you're not looking to do that, I would say stick to level 2 or top rated seller. Okay, level 2 is you've been around for a while. It means they've completed, as it says right here, 50 orders on time with a minimum 4.8 rating, whereas level 1, 10 orders on time with a 4.8 rating. And you can just have a little bit more assurance and you can sleep better at night when you hire someone level 2 or top seller. Top rated seller means someone with at least 100 orders, minimum 4.8 rating, and these guys are manually hand-picked by Fiverr. So this is sort of the creme de la creme. Okay, we've also got pro. which is a new feature on Fiverr, okay, where, as you can see right there, it says only 1% make it to that level. However, you're going straight to Upwork level pricing there. I mean, these people are going to be pretty expensive, which is fine, okay? But if you're on a budget, let's just take this one for example. Make professional website with responsive design. We need a website built. We need somebody who we know has built lots of websites, okay, and we need it done relatively cheap. This guy has a full 5-star rating and has built apparently 567 websites, or accomplished, that number of gigs. All right. As you can see, we've got a bunch of different options here, including the number of pages that are done. Basic SEO are done in the standard and premium package. Let's see, pop-ups on this one here. He'll install e-commerce on the premium one. So even the most expensive one here, which includes a lot of awesome stuff, is pretty cheap. That's $300 for a pretty robust and substantial website. Let's have a look at the portfolio. This is his portfolio of work that he's done. Okay, so these look like pretty solid websites. He's got a solid portfolio of good-looking websites, and you can get the max package with all the goodness in it for $300, for $295 right there. Now, the way that this works is you're literally hiring people directly. You're not posting a job here. Although you can post sort of a job/inquiry/request and have multiple people respond to it. There is an option for that. Generally speaking, the way Fiverr works is you reach out, and it's just like a marketplace, just like Amazon. You're looking at products and looking at the ratings for those products on Amazon. Here, you're looking at gigs and individual workers, okay, vendors, and you're looking at their ratings, okay, for past work, and you're choosing them, okay, not the other way around. You're not posting like you would on Upwork and then having other people come and apply to work with you. All right, so that's how Fiverr.com works, and it's a great way to save some money, get some work done. And obviously the other thing that we talked about was Upwork, where you actually post a job with all the specifics, and then you're going to be sifting through applications to pick the best qualified person. And again, Upwork is perceived as being a little bit higher end, higher quality. So by now we've talked about full-time permanent team members, and then we just talked about freelance project-based freelancers. So now it's time to move on to talk about how to actually manage those people, manage tasks, manage projects, collaborate with them, and make sure work is getting done well once you've got them on your team working for you, either as freelancers or permanent team members.
All right, welcome to Module 3. In this module, our expert will teach you about managing your virtual team. So get ready to take some notes, and let's jump right in.
All right, so once you've got your freelancers or your permanent team members on board and ready for work, you're going to need to manage them. Keep in mind you're working with human beings who are just like you, just like me. They procrastinate, they need help, they need a little nudge every now and then. So working with people and managing them and staying on top of them is absolutely critical. And you need to make sure you're doing that the best way possible to get the best bang for your buck. Otherwise, there's no reason to be outsourcing to people. You might as well just do it all yourself and keep all that weight on your shoulders, right? So if you're going to do it right. Now, there's a lot of different options out there for managing teams, managing tasks, managing workflows, right? And just getting work done. Asana is very popular. Productive was very popular, right? There's a ton of great ones out there. However, the most simple and easy to use one that we have encountered is Trello. Trello is fantastic, and that's what we're going to go over here. Now, there's a lot of different task management softwares out there. Like I said, the principles will remain more or less the same. Okay, the only thing really super unique about Trello is the layout. The layout is so user-friendly and collaboration-friendly. Trello works with boards. This is an example board here. And then it's broken down into lists, right? We have lists here. And then it's broken down into cards, which are the actual task cards. Within those cards, you can drill even deeper for different collaboration and details and descriptions and stuff. But this is a great way. Now, you don't need to arrange it, but what we recommend is aligning things or arranging things in a left to right, beginning to end manner. and then have your team move those cards to where they need to be accordingly. So at the very start, we have the to-do list, the tasks that need to get done. Then we've got working on it now. So when the assigned person is able to work on that, they place it in here and we know that that's being worked on. Need assistance. This is where you drag and drop a card if there's a task that you can't finish and you need someone else to help you out with it. And then you would go into the card itself and add some comments, which we'll look at shortly. Awaiting approval. Okay, if you've got things, workflows, processes that include a final QC, that require a final thumbs up before you go ahead with them, right here in this list. And then finally, done, where you keep a log of all the tasks that have been finished. Now, the great thing about Trello is it's all real time. So your team, all the way on the other side of the world, in the Philippines, let's say, or you got some folks in India, you got some folks in Germany, as they move these things around, okay, let's say Bob discussed or is discussing pricing with Randy. Okay, Bob's tracking down that task. So Bob comes over here and he drops it in the working on it now task, or the working on it now list. Okay, and once he's done, he's going to drop it right here. And you'll see that happen the very second that he does it on the other side of the planet. It'll actually be happening right here from your dashboard. So you can just keep tabs on what your team is doing and whether or not they're doing what they need to be doing, whether they need help, assistance, QCs, that sort of thing. And you have a hugely beneficial big picture overview of what's happening in your company. So this is a great way to do project management. As I said, you can also drill down into the cards and look for more details and comments. So let's say, for example, the person who is handling building linking funnel pages in JVZoo. They run into an issue, so they put it into the need assistance list. Come over here and it says need clarification on which listing is upsell 1 versus upsell 2. Okay, because we gave them a description based on an earlier discussion. However, they need more clarification. Does that kind of make sense? Then there's assigning. You can actually, while you're typing out these cards, assign them to a specific person. This one is obviously assigned to a specific person. Some of these other ones are just up for grabs. Okay, so you need to know that your team either knows how to determine who can complete what tasks, and maybe approach it in sort of a free-for-all manner, or you need to be assigning specific tasks so everybody knows what they need to be doing at any given time, and you know who to go to when you're checking on how that task is going. But that's a basic project management or task management workflow that you can use. Now, the great thing about Trello is it's all modular. You don't have to use this chronological left to right thing. You can have one board with all your different departments, okay? So you've got the front end designers for web pages. Then you've got the back end web developers, and you put certain tasks into the web developer one, and you put certain tasks into the designer one, right? You've got another one for copywriters, and you put a task into the copywriting one. And then they know, based on their workflow, that once they're done typing, they move that card into the web design one. And they say, hey, the copywriting is done. It's in this document. Please take it and incorporate it into the design of the sales page, right? So you could set it up that way if you wanted to. You can set it up however you want, and that's what makes Trello so great. Now, there is one thing that I want to say about collaboration and managing your team before we end this video, and that is, at all costs, avoid using email. Email is the worst thing in the world for collaborating with people. If you need to actually be talking back and forth textually with your team, it's highly recommended that you use Slack. Slack is fantastic. Slack is basically a giant chat room with a ton of different channels, okay? And instead of people having to track down old emails, that were sent out, a week ago or 2 months ago, or sift through, a million different emails that are irrelevant to get to their work-related emails, it's just a complete pain. With Slack, everything's just in one place. All right, with Slack, you've got these little chat rooms with channels, okay, and there's a ton of different cool abilities as well. But basically, you're just keeping all of your work stuff in one area, one platform for all work discussion. If you're managing your team right and using a tool like this, you should never have to touch email when it comes to communicating with your staff. All right, you can have channels that are open to the public. You can have direct channels between just you and one particular worker. All right. You can have goof off channels where people just go in there and post, GIFs and say hello to each other. I mean, Slack is absolutely fantastic. It's the best thing out there for collaboration, and it's free. It's absolutely free, which is, well, it sort of makes it a no-brainer. So definitely avoid email, whatever you do, and use an application like Slack for all of your work communication to just keep it all consolidated into one place for your entire team. That would be my last parting piece of advice when it comes to managing and collaborating with and overseeing your team.